Hello and welcome to video 2 of this 6-part series called Curious and Questioning. My name is Tahlia. I'm an accredited mental health social worker at Mindscape Psychology and Allied Health, and I'm really excited to be bringing you this series that we have curated over a range of topics to hopefully be as valuable for you in understanding the concepts of gender and sexuality better, and also some tips and strategies and practical hints about how to go about navigating these topics, particularly if you are a young person and you think this might be valuable for you, if you're maybe curious or questioning your gender or sexuality, or if you're a parent or carer or family member of someone you think perhaps you're curious and questioning might have gender and sexuality diversity within them. So the first video that hopefully you've seen, which was all about understanding the concepts to do with gender and sexuality, we went through a number of different concepts like what's the difference between sex and gender, what's gender identity and gender expression, what's sexuality, and kind of understanding things within a broader spectrum of identities rather than just seeing people as one thing or another. So just getting a sense of really the kind of breadth and diversity and possibility within identities. So today extends on that, this second video, which is all about language and talking about why it's so important. So I hope you find this valuable too. Language is important. It's got the ability to communicate many things: acceptance or rejection, inclusivity or exclusion, celebration or discrimination. And these can have a major impact on people's sense of self and their place in the world. So that's why we're looking today at names and pronouns. People who identify as gender diverse, transgender, non-binary, gender queer or gender fluid, and I know those are kind of maybe complicated or new terms to you, and if you're not quite sure, check out the first video because it helps kind of unpack some of that. But for people who identify in that way, they may go by a chosen name. So that name means that it's different to the name they were assigned at birth. And or they might use different pronouns. So let me explain. I'm going to start with name first. Some people may choose to keep the name they were given at birth, regardless of the kind of gendered implications of them, or particularly for people who already had a pretty gender neutral name, something like Alex or Sam, Drew, Taylor, Riley, Frankie, Charlie. Or some people may keep the name but change the spelling a bit. So say Charlie, instead of ending in an IE, might just change it to an I if that kind of fits with their gender identity. Or maybe Jessie with an E on the end and swap it to Jessie IE with, the kind of gendered ideas or implications around those names. Some people might choose a new gender neutral name, something that is totally new, maybe something completely unrelated, something with a special meaning or significance. Other people choose names just because they like them or they resonate with them. They may choose a different name related to their name assigned at birth. For example, say you were named Jessica at birth, they might try Jeff, or say Liam at birth might go with Leah. A lot of people do things with the first letter of the name or something that sounds similar, but that's just a personal choice. So pronouns. And this can get a little tricky, and especially if it's a kind of new concept for you, it can get complicated, but bear with me and hopefully I can help you understand them a little bit better. People's choice of pronoun is as individual as the name that they choose, and the only person who can choose what's right for them is that person. So some people may choose to keep the pronouns they've always used, and some people might choose to change them. So the first lot of kind of pronouns that you might be more familiar with are what's known as gender-specific pronouns. So something like she or her, he or him. As I said, ones that we might kind of use more frequently or commonly in society. Then there are what's called gender-neutral pronouns. So the most common one is they, them, or their. But what's tricky for some people is that that's completely acceptable to be used in the singular. So for example, saying, they said they had a great time on their holiday. And although we might associate that with, say, a group of people, they, a group, actually it's completely acceptable to be used for someone who identifies as perhaps non-binary, for example, and use they in the singular. They is also a really good one if you're not sure about someone's gender or their preferred pronouns. It's kind of a safe bet most of the time is if you're not sure, you can just go with they. Obviously, it's best to kind of ask or learn or understand, but if you're not sure, it's a good one to kind of fall back on at the start. Now, here's a couple of maybe more unfamiliar ones or kind of confusing ones, but let me help you understand. There are some that are different words that kind of are a combination or a different variation of the ones that we know. So for example, Z. Z replaces she, he, or they. Or here, which replaces hers, his, or theirs. So see how they're new words that don't have to go into any of those other categories. So for example, Z invited us to her house after school. Yes, it's trickier, but if someone chooses pronouns like that, it's your job to practice them and just keep practicing until you can kind of get your head around it. You might even have to rewatch this a couple of times to better understand it. Those are just some of the pronouns that people use, but there are absolutely others. And it's worth looking into them if that's something that you or your loved one connects with. Some people may choose to keep their name or their pronoun or both or neither. And any combination is absolutely okay. Changing names and pronouns doesn't make you any more or less trans or non-binary or gender fluid. In fact, some people may feel that they sit on a different place on the gender spectrum one day to the next. And on those days, they may choose to use different words. That's okay too. And it's up to that person and only that person to decide. It's really important when someone comes out to use the name and pronoun they identify with. So I want to give you a couple of tips that hopefully can make it a little bit more clear about how to navigate some of this maybe uncharted territory. Okay, first off, you can't know someone's name or pronoun just by looking at them. So don't assume. That's the big one, don't assume. If you're not sure, a good hint is to maybe listen out to how other people might refer to that person. But even still, they may not quite get it right. So it's not a foolproof plan. So the best way, if you're not sure, is, you guessed it, just ask. But be sensitive and thoughtful. Wait for a private moment, maybe where you can pull them aside and have a bit of a chat and ask a question. Not in a large group where someone might feel uncomfortable or unsafe. And just ask politely, as simple as, what pronouns do you use? Show your respect. That's the next one. Using the right name and pronouns helps someone feel respected, accepted, safe, and that they can feel comfortable to be themselves around you. It takes courage to come out, so much courage. So it's really important that you make the effort to get it right for them and reflect how much you respect that. And the last big one is practice. This stuff gets easier over time. It takes getting used to, absolutely. Especially if you've known someone for a long time and you've spoken to them in a particular way or spoken about them in a particular way. For the parents or family members watching, it might be even harder as you've used particular language in regards to your child or your family member their whole life. But just keep practicing. And maybe ask other family members who you know they know to just gently correct you if you make a mistake. It might take some time, but it's worth it for the support and acceptance that it communicates to your child. Okay, so probably maybe what a lot of you are thinking is, what do I do if I make a mistake, right? And making a mistake in regards to particularly pronouns, names as well, but particularly pronouns, is called misgendering someone. So it's understandable when you're learning about this stuff to think, oh my goodness, like it's so complicated and so hard, and what happens if I do the wrong thing, and what happens if I make a mistake? You might feel bad or awkward or guilty or embarrassed. But here's the thing. If you recognize you made a mistake, it's actually easier than you might think to kind of resolve it. Make a quick apology and move on. Don't make it a big deal. I'm sorry, oh my God, I feel so bad. Don't make it a bigger thing. Because actually that person could feel more awkward or upset or uncomfortable if perhaps that drew unwanted or unneeded attention to them. If you don't realize your mistake, and maybe the other person or someone else corrects you, again, same rule applies. Just quickly apologize and move on. Learn from the mistake. That's the important bit. Learn from it and try and use the correct words next time. Okay, so that's if it's a genuine mistake and, it just takes time to get used to. Something important I want you to know about is the idea that misgendering sometimes is intentional. So when does misgendering become a problem? Well, when it's no longer an accident is the easy answer. It takes some time to adjust and get used to, and mistakes are inevitable while you're getting used to it, even like that. But if someone is intentionally using someone's birth name or pronouns, despite knowing that they prefer other language, then that is disrespectful and discrimination. A rule of thumb is to show respect to others just as you'd hope others would do for you. If you identify as cisgender, that is, your gender matches the sex you're assigned at birth, you might not have given this stuff much thought. You might not have had to. You were referred to in one way all your life, and that still fits for you. You haven't had to question your own, make decisions about using different pronouns, or advocate for others to use those pronouns when referring to you. Yes, it takes getting used to. And it might feel strange, unfamiliar, uncomfortable, or even weird, but it's important. With a single word, saying he instead of she, or they instead of he, it speaks volumes. And I'd say it's worth making the extra effort, just taking that extra moment of thought. So I hope that was valuable for you in getting a better understanding around names and pronouns, about language and why it's so important. In the next video, we talk about more concepts focused on the parent. So from the next video onwards, from 3 till 6, they really are focused more on parents. Although if you're a young person or anyone else who's interested in this topic, please watch them. It might be valuable or interesting to you. But in the next video, we talk about what to do when your child comes out as sexuality or gender diverse, how to be there for your child, what to say, what not to say, and much more. How to communicate your love, acceptance, and unconditional support, even in the face of your own potentially challenging emotional experiences. So, as with the last one, there'll also be a resource that will come along with this video, and that will be available through the Mindscape Psychology Instagram and website and things like that, and check out the profiles for more info on that. So thank you for watching this one. I hope it has been somewhat valuable to you. I'm thrilled that you are along with me for the journey, and I hope you tune in to the next video. Have a good one.